Hello everyone, welcome to our episode number 22, and today we want to talk about various agile roles to start with. And basically we want to explore how the project manager role might be fitting in agile ways of working, or in a reverse way, how agile ways of working fits with overall project context. So we explore both the dimension, and then probably we'll start getting questions and we take your PMP preparation related questions. So I'm your host Saket Bansal, and I'm with you for around 1 hour, and we can discuss any query related to PMP certification. I'm hoping this stream is reaching to YouTube as well as on LinkedIn. If you have any question, you can comment in the LinkedIn comments wherever you are watching me right now, or you can also comment in a YouTube comment section and that comment will reach me. So that's a usual process, and this is how we continue our session. So let's talk about agile roles and project management. I would say this is one of the most frequently asked confusion to me in my various agile classes as well as PMP classes. Especially the individuals who are already agile practitioner, agile certified, they are more confused about what the Scrum Master should do in PMP style of working. When you are working as a project manager, what is the difference between project manager role and a Scrum Master role, or maybe a product owner role and a Scrum Master role? So today we are focusing on this particular question in a little bit more detail and understand how we can fit the agile ways of working inside the overall project management framework. Now let's start with the basics. See, the pure agile ways of working, be it called Scrum way of working, scaled agile framework way of working, various agile frameworks are available. They are not promoting project ways of working. So say in a Scrum, you don't see a role called project manager. You don't see a term called project in a Scrum way of working. Similarly, the scaled agile framework is also not talking about project or project management role. They prefer working in a product lines. They prefer we create a team which are not temporary. These are the teams which will be remain dedicated to this line of business or this product, and they will keep working for a future. Yeah. So there is no end in their mind. By default, that particular framework is proposing that we will maintain and develop the product. Now, in that way of working, there is no fitment of the project. Yeah. Now, in a PMP exam, we are doing things in a project manner. The PMP exam is only targeted to those professionals who are working in a project manner. Now, what is project? Project is, rather than thinking that we will keep working on this particular idea for very long, we are focusing on for a shorter duration. Yeah. So we are focusing on temporary endeavor. The duration could be 1 year, 2 year, 1 month, 3 months. It could be, but there is an end date in mind. So we have a goal in mind. We want to bring the appropriate funding, appropriate projection, and we want to achieve that goal by way of finishing that particular project. So project starts with project objectives, and we need to do it as a temporary endeavor. We bring our energy, our people, our stakeholders together. We get the deliverable done, and we dismantle the project team. That's a project way of working. Now, if I try to fit a project inside the Scrum way of working, that will be very confusing. But rather, I can fit Scrum way of working or some ideas from Scrum, not necessarily all the ideas from Scrum, inside my project way of working. And that is our PMP exam certification approach. We are saying you are starting with the project. Your first starting point is you have a temporary endeavor, you want to bring people together, you have a project objective, and this particular project is expected to be managed by a project manager who will ensure the project objectives will get met. Yeah, that's the starting point. Now, when you are doing that particular project execution, you may want to work in a inspired by Scrum style of working. I'm not saying Scrum, I'm saying inspired by Scrum style of working. You can work with some inspired by some other style of working also. Maybe you focus on predictive style of working. Whatever suits your process, you can do that, because your goal as a project manager is to achieve project objective. Your goal is not to follow process A, process B, process C. Whatever helps, you do it, and you can keep changing it. It's perfectly okay. You may start with Scrum inspired processes for few initial months in your project, and after that you realize that I need to change. I probably want to move to, say, Kanban inspired processes, or I may want to move to predictive inspired processes because that is something needed for my project. I will do it. Yeah. So this is how we fit the frameworks and the processes inside the project boundaries. Now the confusion starts. When we start fitting these things, say if I learn Scrum, Scrum tells about their framework and they also create a roles. In order to work in that particular framework, they have a Scrum Master, they have a product manager, a product owner, not manager, product owner, that's what they call the product guy. And then they have a team members. Yeah, so they have a Scrum team which constitute all these three kind of role. Now, many a time our professionals start getting confused. Okay, what is the role of a Scrum Master inside the project then? If I'm following project management style and I'm also including Scrum idea, what do we do with the Scrum roles? We understand that we might be customizing the overall way of working by adding temporary endeavor to it, but what about the roles? So let's explore the role and integration of it in the PMP certification as well as for project management. Now, starting with flexibility, in case of project management, there is no fixed titles which has to be doing X amount of things. You don't necessarily need to have something called team leader. Maybe many projects will have a team leader, but it's not necessary to have a team leader. There is nothing like in a PMP exam, you have a defined roles and responsibility of team leader. There is nothing like that. Similarly, there is no defined roles and responsibility of Scrum Master also. Yeah? But as soon as I use a word team leader, you understand that in the industry, team leader is expected to take care of their team. They will probably facilitate, guide that particular team so that project manager can ensure that this unit is led by this person. Who told you? It's a general understanding. There is nothing like a rule. And if this is something you want to follow in your project, you will create your project resource management approach. You will create your project team agreement accordingly. There is nothing wrong with that. But there is a possibility that in one project, you don't have a team leader. Now, so we don't necessarily have to have a team leader. Now, who will lead the team? I will lead the team as a project manager. I will be leading the whole project as well as I will be leading the team because we don't have a separate team leader. Now, similarly, now I take it to a Scrum a master role, if that see in your project. If I have a Scrum Master role, whatever typical understanding of a Scrum Master role, I definitely want to give as a project manager that space for that Scrum Master to do that job. Because I want to make sure that the leader who is available to me, I maximum utilize that leader's skills. I don't want to do somebody else's job. If that role or that particular tag is missing in my project team, then I will do that job which is done by that particular leader. So for a PMP exam perspective, if I have a Scrum Master in my question, I can say the Scrum Master can do the typical job which they used to do in a Scrum work, most of them, and I might be just helping them to become better so that they can produce the better team results. If I don't see the Scrum Master in that question, I will say someone has to do a team level leadership, I will do it. Yeah. So I as a project manager can definitely do all the works which are done by the Scrum Master if the Scrum Master is missing in my project team. And if the Scrum Master is present, then I will be delegating or empowering, rather than delegating, the right word would be empowering. I would be empowering those work to a Scrum Master so that he can does that particular thing. Now, overall, what the Scrum Master is expected to do: lead the team, create the self-organizing team, facilitate the teams to make their own decisions, help the team to have their working agreements, help the team to reflect on, to become better, overall leadership. So it's a pure leadership and facilitation role. So I definitely let my Scrum Master do that. Now, somebody will say, if that person is doing this all, then what are you doing? Maybe I will be doing those things which are not typically done by the Scrum Master. Probably I will be working with the vendors, I will be working with external clients, I will be working with the stakeholders, I will be taking care of external project risks, I might be working on the costing part of it, I might be working on management reporting part of it. So there is a possibility of various project management activities which doesn't fall under a Scrum Master typical profile, then I might be doing that. If the Scrum Master role is missing, then I will be doing both the jobs. Yeah, so that's a little simple way to see it. Yeah, so I think Scrum Master is relatively easy. Then comes a little more complicated: product owner. So the product owner role in an agile way of working is a ownership of prioritization, ownership of right vision, ownership of right direction to the team, so that we produce right value out of our effort. Yeah, that's the understanding of product owner role. And if the question indicates the product owner role exists, I expect this particular person as a high power, high interest stakeholder, and I understand that this particular role will guide my team to find out the right priority, right requirement, and help my team together working to achieve the project desired objectives. So setting the direction is something which will be coming from product owner role. Now, if the question indicates the product owner role is not there, yeah, can I assume and can I do all the job which is done by the product owner? Now here, I would say the answer is no. You might be able to do as a project management good part of product owner role, which is a facilitation, guidance part of it, but the decision making part of it. So prioritizing the requirement, telling what is our product vision, what we want to do next, that is something is not a project manager role. It should be done. If the question indicates product owner, that's a perfect person to do it. Assuming if that name is not there and I need to find someone, then sponsor could be a good name. So anyone who is sponsoring, anyone who is a high power stakeholder, that person should be prioritizing the product backlog. That person should be prioritizing and working with the right stakeholder to come up with the right requirement. As a project manager, I can facilitate my high power stakeholder having conversations, collaborations, and finally, I can facilitate based on their discussion, we prioritize the product backlog. So I can do that job, but I can't start setting the priority. I can't start deciding that we will run for another few months before we achieve this particular objective. I can't decide that this is a good version to make a release right now. Those kind of decisions are high power, high interest stakeholders decision making. The sponsors or senior people in the organization or the product owner are the right words which are associated with those kind of roles. Yeah. So I need someone who will be doing the requirement decision making, or I need to facilitate those high power stakeholders to make those decisions, but I can't do those decision making as a project manager role. Yeah, so that's the important thing we need to keep in mind for a PMP exam. All depends upon the type of questions you see, what all options are there. There's nothing like black and white. And I can't make a table and say these are the things which will be done by the product owner and these are the things which are done by the project manager. I thought of doing it when I was preparing for this session, but I realized that will create more confusion rather than a help. We need to understand that there is going to be a variability. So that's how we can say that product owner versus project manager role might be overlapping and might be having a distinct area for a product owner which cannot be done by the project manager. Sponsor can do that job, or some high level stakeholder can do that particular job. Now let's talk about the final element in the Scrum way of working. You also have a role of a team. So team members are expected to facilitate their own decision making. Team members are expected to estimate their own work. Team members are expected to design their own thing. What happens if the project manager is also there? Because some of you may believe project manager will do the planning. So see, irrespective of life cycle, as a project manager, if I have a capable team who can plan their work, I definitely want that team to plan their work. That's my mindset. Yes, with the agile way of working, my hope is that I have that team, or I will create that team and they will take care of estimation. So when the term agile comes, by default, I can assume the team is capable enough to do their own planning, to do their own estimation. We have worked with them. We have selected the people accordingly. And that is something I don't have to worry about. So definitely I want to let my team do all kind of planning, which can help the team to self-organize themselves and as well as produce the desired results. So in the agile way of working, I can safely delegate the planning and continuous monitoring related work to my agile teams only. I want to create the right environment. I want to create a right transparency so that people have the desired information. They know how are we going to work. I can facilitate team working agreements. Scrum Master can also facilitate it. But we want to create the environment so that team can produce the right result. Should I not be doing it in a predictive life cycle? Whenever the question indicates you can do it better, you prefer to do that. You don't have to be command and control as soon as you hear the predictive life cycle, because that's a leadership style rather than a life cycle. And that leadership style is not much popular. Whenever I have an opportunity to be a servant leader, I always become a servant leader, irrespective of life cycle selection. So hopefully this gives you an understanding of how to see the agile roles inside the project management context. And my final reminder would be start from project rather than starting from Scrum. Start from project and then fit Scrum inside the project when you are doing PMP certification. I'm not talking about pure Scrum way of working. And in my perception, if you are working in a pure Scrum, then you don't have to worry about project. And you don't have to worry about project manager and PMP certification as well, because you don't necessarily have a role interaction called project manager, because it's not a temporary endeavor. So this was our starting talk before we get into special queries, and we can focus on your interaction. I do have one query. I see one query coming in the comment as well, and I have a pending query as well. So we'll start from this query, which came right now because it's related to Agile, and then I will take my one. So feel free to put your comments and then we move forward. So in Agile, how many times can we take requirement? For example, already customer or a stakeholder has come adding features and still they are adding, So that's the point, Kiran. Thank you for bringing this idea. We need high power, high interest stakeholder who is involved and deciding, yes, this is what we want to do. And we want to add another 2 months, but this is an important requirement for us. And that role we usually call product owner. Yeah. Now, if I don't have a product owner and I still follow an Agile, then as a project manager, I need to find out those high power, high interest stakeholder who can do a prioritization when they get multiple requirements added to our ever growing product backlog, because I need to facilitate the conversation where they see what is the impact of these kind of requirement, what is the value of these kind of requirements, and how much time and how long we want to continue with this particular objective. And based on that conversation, the decision will be made. So as a project manager, I cannot accept or reject the requirement, be it in a predictive life cycle or be it in adaptive life cycle. I need to have someone who is empowered to do that. So if I see a word product owner, the person is empowered to do that exception and rejection. So the product owner will decide how many times I want to change the requirement. As long as it adds value, he or she will keep doing it. Or I need to set some sponsor or some roles or some people who are authorized to do that, and those people will be doing the backlog refinement. So the answer for such kind of question will be the backlog refinement process or a meeting will help us in deciding what requirement stays and what is their priority. And the empowered individuals who are participating in the backlog refinement, they will make decisions about what requirement to add, how many times it has to be added, how long this initiative can go, continue going. They will continue till the time they see a value coming out of it. Yeah. So that's the query. If anything on Agile, we can close here before I go further into the other conversation. Okay, so we have another query related to it, I think. So how to manage conflict between strategic goal of a product compared to the project goals? Any suggestion? So high power, high interest stakeholder can only do it. Yeah, so that's from the previous conversation. It is more about talking to the product owner, bringing people together and helping the facilitating conversation. In general, if I am that guy, yeah, I have to facilitate all this. So in our general terms, we will say that we will facilitate the conversation where we can talk about cost and benefits. We need to make sure that people have a shared understanding about the objectives and the amount of money we can invest for that particular objective. I need to facilitate conversations so people listen to each other. And by listening to each other and by reiterating the overall goal of our initiative, we reach to a stage where we start listening and understanding each other concern and reach to an agreement. Yeah, I know it's a super high level stuff. In a reality, we have different personalities and we have a different reasons, but I need to find out what is my limitations. So I may have a given scope of work in some situation and someone wants to take me opposite to that, then probably I need to point it out that this is not something I can do. So managing expectation is the key for project managers and for any manager who is working with the stakeholders. Yeah. So I have prepared a video for an interview question, which is like that how do you take care of when you have a key stakeholder having conflicting priorities, because this question was asked frequently in the interviews. We should make it live in a day or two, but overall it is all about building the right conversation so that we can reach to the agreement. And I have given some example in that particular video as well. So should be live in 2-3 days. Okay, so I think I can take my question then. It looks like this topic questions are settling down. So I have a one pending question, which is a PMP exam question. Okay, so this question came from offline chat. And the conversation was that there are a lot of documents in project management. there is a project charter, there is a vision, and the question is also asking there could be a product charter also, risk register, risk management plan, assumption log. So I get confused when I see so many documents, yeah, and how should we handle that? That could be the challenge. So first thing is that as a project manager, my goal is not to create documents, yeah, even in a predictive life cycle. But when the question indicates the document is available, my intelligence, my competency should be enough to understand what this document contains and where I can use it. Yeah, that is needed in my PMP exam. Now, project charter is definitely a starting thing. It is something which gives a seed to your project. So I usually tell that someone has given you a seed, you are planting it and you will grow a plant and you will produce the deliverable, which is like a fruits. And that person who has given you a seed and who is giving money to raise this plant will take that fruits. Your job is like a gardener as a project manager who will just make sure that this tree grows, the project grows, and produces the desired deliverable. You are the caretaker of that particular tree, which is called project management. Yeah? So project charter is that seed. So project charter tells you the high level requirement, high level objective, high level constraints, high level assumptions, anything at a high level. Now, I am a mid of the project. Should I keep referring to the project charter? The answer is no. Yeah, it gives you high level, but soon you get at a detailed level, soon. So say if you are in a initial 10-15 days of the project, then probably you refer a project charter because that's the only place you have information. But if those 10-15 days are passed by, then you will have a project management plan. In case of predictive way of working, you will have a detailed project management plan. In case of adaptive way of working, you will have a high level project management plan, and you will have other artifact like product roadmap, product vision, and the release plans. So those things will be useful rather than you go back to the project charter. Yeah? So it gives you a seed, but you don't have to refer it all the time, because after that you will have more elaborated and agreed upon document, which is called project management plan. Now, vision is a subset of project charter, could be a separate document, could be a part of the project charter also. Sometimes the project charter will contain project vision. It is just to, if you want to explain what is your project about, probably you can explain it in a 30-second, 60-second time. That's a vision. So something which is small enough, crisp enough, which helps the stakeholder to agree to a common understanding of what we want to achieve here. That's a vision statement. Yeah, that's a possibility. Product charter, I don't see it's frequently used term in our PMP exam, but if it is coming, charter is like that it has been given to me as a boundary, as a goal. That's the intent of that word charter. Yeah. So which clarifies what I'm expected to do by when and what are the overall high level picture. If that thing is coming as a product charter, you can say it might be giving me information about what is the goal of this particular product, who is the customer segment, what problem we are solving, what kind of timelines we are looking for our ROI. So that kind of high level outline of my product can come from product charter if that word is coming, but I don't see that word used very frequently. Yeah. So we understood the charter, vision, and product charter, and they all are high level stuff, should be looked at initially, and later on you better go for a detail level thing. In the mid of the project, somebody tells me, I want to know about the risks. And someone says, why don't you look at a project charter for the risk? That's going to be a wrong answer. Yeah, that could be a good answer in the first week of the project because that's the only thing you have. Now, if you have a risk in the mid of the project, you will look at a risk register. Yeah. Somebody will say, oh, I want to know the milestone. Where should I look at? Project charter, definitely wrong answer. Project charter contains the high level milestone for initial level. Now you need to look at your release plan, project schedule, or a product roadmap, depending upon what artifact is available and which life cycle we are using. Yeah? So we need to look at the detailed document as we go inside the project. Now, what is a risk register? Definitely a risk register is a repository of risks. Yeah. So whatever risk comes, whatever risk get retired, whatever you do with them, you just keep dumping them into a risk register and keep managing and improving them and reviewing them on a regular basis. So it's a place where you put a risk, you put an ID of it, you identify when it was raised, you put the impact analysis of it, and you probably also give a pointer or comment about the responses you are taking for the risk. That's a risk register. Now, after that, the questioner asks, what is a risk management plan then? Now, in our project management, you will have various management plans. You will have a risk management plan, you will have a scope management plan, you have a requirement management plan. Again, it is not necessary to create all these plans. Some of those plans could be verbal plans also. But if the question indicates that plan is available, then you should know how to use it. So what is this management plan? This management plan tells me how to do that particular work. So the scope management plan will tell me how to identify, track, validate scope. Risk management plan will also tell me how to identify, record, prioritize, evaluate, retire, escalate, report on a regular basis risks. Yeah, that's it. So overall approach of managing thing is defined in those management plan. So overall approach of identifying and prioritizing, ranking, qualifying some risk as a high risk, low risk, when should we do what, is something defined in a risk management plan, not for a particular risk, but generically for all your risk management activity. The particular risk will be available in a risk register, not in a risk management plan, but approach of taking care of all set of risk will be available in a risk management plan. Now, finally, this question had many terms. Assumption log. So what is an assumption log? Whatever you do in your project, you have assumptions. You make estimation, you have an assumption. Yeah. You make some promises for say commitments for your milestones, you make an assumption. So it's a good place to keep track of your assumptions. Usually whatever document you create, scope document and requirement document and all, usually you put assumption as a section there, and you talk about that these all has been assumed when we prepared this particular scope or a requirement document. Now, many a time these assumptions are also accumulated and put into a one place because assumptions need to be reviewed frequently. And many assumptions, if they don't come true, they will become risk and you need to take care of them. So a place where you put all these assumptions as a list and put some organizing of it, that is called assumption log. Yeah. So you should be keep reviewing it so that you can find out the appropriate assumption which is becoming risky for you. Yeah. So we have a question. Yeah, agile question again. Let me say it. If the scope is increased in agile development, its cost and deadline also changed. The answer is yes, obvious. Yeah. Now that's the whole idea of agile. So, and that's why we need a high power, high interest stakeholder making that decision. I can't make that decision as a project manager. I can't start a project for 1 month and keep running for 2 years. Yeah. I'm a gardener who is not expected to do all this. Yeah, I need to just take care of the tree. But if my boss who has hired me and they initially told me that, you need to do this thing for a 1 month, and he says, guys, you are doing great job, do it for 6 months. Oh, you are doing such a good job, do it for another 1 year. We'll keep doing. Yeah, we'll keep doing. That's it. But the person who is empowered to do that should be making this decision. It should not happen. One person is saying, keep doing for 1 year. And after that, I send an invoice. He says, what is this invoice? We already gave you. And we gave you for 1 month, not for 6 months. Then we have a confusion. So the agile ways of working assumes that you design your contract, you design your conversation, you design your agreement in such a manner which provide flexibilities of extending or reducing the timelines and the cost. There is also a possibility you start for thinking for a 1 year project, but you realize this project is not making sense. You finish in a 2 months time. You should be having that agreement in the project understanding. If you are working as a party, then in a contract that should be there. Or reverse can also happen. We start off thinking of a 1 year and we may extend to 1.5 years or maybe for 2 years. So that's the idea of dynamic scope with decision making, with proper evaluation. Who does it? It's a part of a backlog refinement led by high power, high interest stakeholder, usually called product owner. If that word is missing, you can use a customer. So you can say customer will make that decision. That's a good idea. If the customer word is also missing in the question, you can definitely make a sponsor as an idea. So as we were discussing agile roles, the product owner role either done by the product owner only, or done by the customer, or done by the sponsor, or as a project manager, I need to find these kind of customers and sponsors in a one room, but they will make a decision. If not one person, they jointly will make a decision, and I can facilitate that decision making as a backlog refinement process. Yeah. Okay, so this is till now. If you have any queries on your PMP preparation, any topic about PMP will be good. Yes, we are talking more about the roles and the scopes and the agile ways of working, but if you have something else, we can also explore that. So continuation of the roles thing. Further coming, so project manager should be involved in annual planning, quarter planning, release planning, sprint planning, all of them or none of them. It depends. So say, should I get involved in my team doing weekly planning? Forget about Agile. Even in a simple 5, 10, 20 people team. The answer is, if they can't do it without me, I probably. If I don't have a team leader who can facilitate it, I probably. But if I have a team leader who will take care of it, I don't want to. I want to empower those people. So for a PMP exam, we can't have yes-no answers. We can say, let's see the situation. So if the question indicates that there is no team leader, you are the only leader, and the question also indicates the team will require some hand-holding, without that they won't be able to do it, then I definitely need to be there. If the question indicates team is empowered and capable of doing it, I definitely should not be there, but I will probably be accountable of that they are really doing the right planning. Yeah? That's the approach. If I see a Scrum Master available and he or she can do it, I should not be. If I see that person cannot handle it, then I should be. Now it is most likely the shorter duration planning, say a week planning, which is usually get converted into a sprint, little bit higher level, the probability of team able to handle their own will be high. Yeah. Longer duration planning, probability of the team having strategic perspective, long-term views and stakeholder interaction is relatively low. I'm not saying zero. So it's most likely if you do a planning which is going for a longer duration, maybe a release level, whatever timeline coming in the question, there is a most likelihood of project manager facilitating and being an active participant of it to ensure that we all are on a common plan. But if the time scale is getting shortened, maybe a 1-day plan in a daily stand-up, maybe a 1-week plan or 2-week plan in a sprint planning meeting, I probably don't have to be part of it. Probably when my question shows the team can take care of it themselves. Yeah. Now, I don't necessarily need to have an annual plan, quarterly plan, and all those plans. In a one area, you may have it. In another area, you may not have it. So we can't say that in the project management, everyone has to create annual plan, quarter plan, release plan. Maybe not. But if your organization is doing it, so first you need to see, is it a project way of working? That's the first question. Rather than you can say, we do these planning and there is no project. And now what is the project manager expected to do? Then we will have more confusing answer. But we go with a project as a starting point, and inside the project, you might be doing release planning and sprint planning. That's the usual 2 plannings we talk for a PMP exam. Most likely the release planning is more active participant by the project manager. The sprint plannings can be taken care by the Scrum Masters and the team if that question indicates in my exam. Okay. I'm just checking to make sure that things are reaching to me. And I just checked the LinkedIn. I think it is working good. Yeah. And I can see the questions which were present at LinkedIn is also present to my interface. So I think this is working. Yeah. In the next session, I want to focus more on Agile artifacts. The way we started with Agile roles today. We want to focus more on artifacts like sprint plan or user story or MVP or MBI and all those kind of stuff. But we keep it for next Friday, not today, but yes. Yeah. Okay, looks like things are settling down then. Yeah, I will pause for a while and see if there are new questions, else we start closing today's session. So update from our social content. From our last week Power Hour session, I have created a lot of sub-content, and I posted LinkedIn article in the Eisenbridge page. So if you are interested in knowing about the previous questions, a little summary of it, you may want to check the Eisenbridge articles. The another additional thing which I did, which is more than what we discussed here, I added some of the multiple choice question, PMP style questions, videos, link of PMP style questions videos related to topics. So like we had a project closing topic, so I added 5-7 questions related to it. So we had a conversation summary there, and then we have a questions also one can practice. So if you want to track that content, you can use our LinkedIn articles, Eisenbridge LinkedIn page, and you can go into article section to find out those. You can also go to a post feed and you can see the recently posted articles from there. So there is a question, says, I was asking in an interview, okay, being in the Agile team, still cross-functional conflict occurs? I would say that Agile is not a guarantee of that people will change overnight and they will start behaving differently. Even in a non-Agile team, you can have a situation where people are very self-organized and they can do a good conversation and they don't necessarily get into unnecessary conflict. And there is a possibility of people following iterative incremental way of working, and still they have a conflicts related to one or the other roles and responsibility. So I think any method is not a guarantee of people will behave differently. So yes, conflicts can come, any type of conflict can come, and some amount of conflicts are desirable because the people have different values, different understanding, different depth. So say I may be a quality expert, I might be a part of a cross-functional team, but my understanding of quality is very different. My perception of looking at quality is very different than an engineer who is doing the coding. And since my perception is different and this person's perception is different, we are expected to have a conflict. And there is no problem with that. Yeah? Now, the next question would be how we resolve those conflicts. So if we create a team environment where we can listen to each other, we can see the value in our perceptions, the perception A and perception B, and we can keep eye on what our customer needs, how our customer will get a benefit out of our actions, customer centricity or a stakeholder centricity, and we focus on that and achieving the project objective. That's the right thing to do. Now, this thing should be done in any project team. Yes, we expect the Agile project team should be behaving more like this, because the typical understanding is the Agile project teams are small and they are more collaborative, and non-Agile project teams are relatively big and they have to divide it into subsections and may not have that much collaboration. Yeah, that's an assumption, default assumption. But if you have a same size team and they are working in the non-Agile manner, then I will probably also focus on creating the collaborative environment so they don't have unnecessary conflict, but healthy conflicts are expected to be there. So I also posted the interview question where I gave few examples of possible team conflicts. This was available in our YouTube channel in a podcast area. And I think I gave 6 examples. You can create good examples out of it. And I also focused on when you are giving answer in the interview, you need to be careful about your selection of examples, because you should not be demonstrating a conflict example which should have been avoided, like miscommunications and unclear roles and responsibility, and those kind of conflicts I probably don't want to put as an example. But I want to put an example of conflicts which are high, which are more creative, which are more advanced in nature, and which are showing that we are willing to find the right answer. So that YouTube video probably will be useful. Available in our channel /Eisenbridge/ podcast area. You can find that. Okay, so we started talking about our roles part today, and I think we had some queries related to it. We looked into documents and we looked into how many times we can change. This is little tricky because we keep thinking in a pure predictive manner. We keep thinking the project management is all about on time within budget. Yeah. And nowadays the current focus of your PMP exam is a value delivery. Yeah. So we have a 12 principles, and one of the principle clearly says focus on value. The principle clearly tells navigate complexity, envision the future state, enable change, focus on adaptability and resiliency. So the idea of project management is about adaptation, replanning, and finding the right answer as we learn along. Yeah. So it is not about that we have given a one goal and we just achieve that goal, and even if that goal doesn't make sense, we can appreciate ourselves. I did what I have been told to do. Yeah, so that is not the idea. So even in a predictive life cycle, you can change. You can change your budget from 6 months to 1 year. Yes, your deadline can change, but it has to be done in the collaboratively manner. In the predictive life cycle, that collaborative manner is called change control process. Yeah, change control system, change control board, all those kind of terminology comes. In case of agile way of working, that is expected to be most likely to happen, because we are starting with the assumption that we have to evolve as we go along, and we expected to have more frequent conversation about how do we adapt ourselves, and that frequent conversation is called backlog refinement. You can consider it as a meeting, you can consider it as ongoing interactions, and there could be a caretaker of that backlog refinement process, can be called product owner, can be called customer if the customer is owning that particular backlog refinement continuously, can be called sponsor, yeah, but cannot be called project manager. Yeah, that's the thing. Project manager is bringing those people because I can't decide myself that I will run this project for 6 months rather than 3 months. So similarly, the change control board higher authority cannot be a project manager. Similarly, the backlog refinement, final decision making cannot be a project manager. It has to be someone else. And these three words are good: product owner, customer, and sponsor. And if they are deciding, we do it. Yeah. Okay, so if there is any follow-up query or a new question on these topics, please put your comment in the chat area or a comment area, YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever you are checking this content. Okay, so just wanted to remind that we do have a PMP style questions on our YouTube channel. I think we have around 145 now. So they're good enough. Now, even we keep adding few more at a lower pace, but I think this much is good enough to get you PMP certified. We are getting a lot of feedback where people just watch these questions after their live class and got certified because they got a good understanding of overall project management topics. So it might be useful for any of you who are near to your project management certification program, may watch those videos. Watching is important. Answering the right option is not that critical, not that much important. They are pretty easy question. But with the help of understanding why something was right and why something was wrong, and I usually take a time to elaborate the concepts also in a small pieces. So each question might be a 5-minute video on average. So maybe you keep watching 3 videos a day, 5 videos a day, maybe in a sequence, and that can help you in small doubt clarification and maybe get ready in a PMP style thinking and get certified soon. Yeah. So that could be one of the call for action after this session. Maybe you want to try out our videos. Okay, so this is another typical question. For PMP, we have PMBOK 7 reference guide. What resources are good for Agile? So first thing is PMP, you have an exam content outline. The PMBOK 6, PMBOK 7 can help you in understanding some of the foundational concepts, but does not cover the whole idea of exam content outline of 35 tasks. Yeah. So what are 35 tasks? You can download from ECU. Now, if you want to understand Agile, you can understand Scrum, but at the same time, the PMP exam is not about Scrum. Yeah, we need to understand customization of the Scrum. So that is again exam content outline. So the PMP exam content outline, I need to see that in a Scrum perspective. But if I just want to learn about the pure Scrum, I can start with the Scrum guide. Yeah, it's a freely available tool. I can definitely look into PMI's Agile practice guide. So after I look at a Scrum guide, which tells me basics of Scrum way of working, and I keep in mind that I don't have to follow all these rules as it is when I'm following project management, but I understand the essence of it. Then I can read Agile Practice Guide that can be useful. People who are enrolled to our program, or if you have taken your PMI Authorized Education Provider program, then I believe you don't need these kind of guide as a reference. You probably just look at them as a foundational knowledge, but whatever you learn in your PMI Authorized Content, because they cover the complete 35 tasks of your exam content outline, that should be good enough for making you ready for your Agile part. From our side, free resources, we have a 50 Agile questions, and we have those 145 PMP style questions, which also contains Agile. So if you watch these 50 Agile and 145 generic question, I think you covers most of the concepts which are needed for your PMP exam. On top of our regular classes, this is a general public resource. And for our regular classes, we have additional resources to get them ready with Agile and predictive lifecycle. Okay, so I think we covered most of the questions now. So great, little bit about the next session. I want to talk about various Agile artifacts. If you have any follow-up query, you can post in this YouTube comment or a LinkedIn comment, and probably we will include it as a part of our next conversation, which is expected to happen upcoming Friday, and that will take care of your work. Interesting question coming in. The PMP authorized exam content, outline content, which is coming from PMI, is it enough to study or pass the exam? The answer is yes. Yeah, the answer is yes. But terms and condition applied. What is that terms and condition? You need to have a project fundamentals very clearly understood. Yeah, that is something is there. And you also need to have a good understanding of Agile and Scrum. And on top of it, if you go through PMP exam content outline subjects content only, it is enough for passing the exam. So we had few clients where they only watched my recording of the PMP exam content outline after PMP authorized content after we did a live class. It also depends upon how much trainer explains those particular content, but they just watched that particular content recording and they did the questions which I have on our YouTube, and they passed the exam. But generally I recommend to have some amount of project management and Scrum fundamentals and coverage of PMP exam content, which is coming from PMI authorized provider. That much is good enough. Now, NP, both the questions are already answered. I know we have not made the video live, but it should be coming soon. So I think you made the same comment last time on our interview video. So I have done it. So detailed answer is coming about conflicting video priorities should be there on this Sunday. I will make it live. And about success metrics will also be live within 2 days. Yeah. So what I can do even before I make them live, I will share an offline link with you as a response to your comment here. They are unlisted as of now. We need to do few other work. Yeah. So I will share the unlisted link with you so that you can have a feel of it. Yeah. Thank you for putting that comment. I think we take care of it. Yeah. Great. So thank you everyone for your active participation today. See you again next Friday. Any question related to your PMP certification or fitting Agile in your project management is something, an area of interest for us. And we will talk as much we can, and I should be able to facilitate your PMP certification journey a little faster so that you get certified and make a professional growth. Yeah. Thank you for attending today's session. Bye for now.